Today is Yom HaShoah, the day in which we commemorate the 6 million Jewish lives lost in the Holocaust. About a year ago, it's hard to believe, but a year ago to the date, I was actually in Poland with March of the Living. It was my third time in Poland, my first when I was a teenager with United Synagogue Youth, then again with March of the Living through our Sinai Temple Sisterhood and Sinai Temple, and then a year ago with Sinai Temple and Sinai Akiba Academy. And last year, the question was asked of me, you know, you've been to Poland now 3 times, how will this trip be different? And what I realized throughout the trip and with advice of many guides and teachers is that I could not focus on that phrase 6 million. That if I walked into every concentration camp or place of atrocity or horror with the idea of 6 million, I would leave unable to fully grasp the magnitude of the horrors that occurred in Eastern Europe and around the world. And instead, I focused on one name and one story and one memory. And in each place that I visited, I vowed to bring that memory and that story home. And that's exactly what we ask you to do tonight. So whether it's one of our messages or a name that's mentioned or a lullaby that's sung, hold on to one and vow that that story is something that you will hold for the rest of your life. Vow to never forget. And to begin our evening with a Yom HaShoah message is Rabbi Wolpe.
I was particularly touched by the fact that Rabbi Guzik began this evening by talking about her visits to Poland, because tonight, that's where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be leading a trip of March of the Living, and today we would be in Auschwitz. And it is both a sadness and almost surrealistic that the quarantine of the world has kept everyone home. And instead of being in a camp that destroyed our people, I stand in a synagogue Forgive me. All of a sudden, my computer just disappeared and the screen went blank. But we are resourceful people, so I am back holding my phone to say what I said before, which is I was supposed to be in a camp that was intended to destroy our people, but instead, as you can see, I'm in my office in a place that builds our people. And when I look at the wall of books and I pull off the books of Jewish learning that line my office and that animate our world, I am reminded of the fact that what the Nazis wished to destroy was not only Jewish lives, but Jewish culture. They wanted to destroy Judaism. They had planned to build a museum of a dead people. And if I could not be in the place of commemoration, I feel myself blessed to be in the place of learning and of celebration of Judaism. Because our message is not only the remarkable people who survived, but also that we carry on the culture of those who were taken. And we remember those like Leo Beck, who conducted study groups in Theresienstadt because he understood that as long as the spirit and learning of our people survived, the Jewish people could not die. So wherever you are, anywhere in the world, I want to ask of you that you learn something, learn a verse, learn a law, something of Jewish knowledge, because every act of learning is an act of defiance. Every act of learning says that the Nazis did not win, that our culture survives, that our faith survives, that our people endures, that these books are stronger than their guns and their swords. And Am Yisrael Chai, we continue to live despite the horror of the destruction because of the strength of those who came before us, because of the legacy that they left us that will never die.
Out of the 6 million Jews that were murdered in the Shoah, 1.5 million were children. And as Rabbi Wolpe said, it's an odd blessing to actually be in the synagogue at this moment. I'm in Cone Chapel. And usually in a week's time, 800 Jewish children are present within this chapel, singing and praying and filling their hearts, as Rabbi Wolpe said, with Jewish knowledge. And so tonight, Cantor Feldman and I will focus on the stories of children who were murdered in the Shoah, futures that were lost forever, dreams torn asunder, but whose voices will be amplified tonight. As I said, 1 year ago, I was in Poland with March of the Living, and I was visiting a place called Zbielagogowska Gora. It's a place where the Nazis murdered 8,000 Jews and 800 children. One by one, the Jews were forced to undress, line up, and walk down into mass graves awaiting the gunfire from SS soldiers. Once one row was shot, some people still moving. The next row of Jews lay down for the killing to continue. When we were standing at this place, our delegation held pictures of children murdered in the Shoah, and we shared their names. The name that I held that day was Anna Glinberg, age 3. A mere baby, and as some of you know, this little baby shares the name with my daughter, Annie, and at the time shared the same age as one of my sons. And so that day before I left, as I often have little toys in my purse to keep my own children entertained, I couldn't help but reach into my pocket, and I left on the mass grave a small Matchbox car, a car that my kindergartner would play with, a little toy so that these 800 baby souls would know that a mother in this world still sheds tears for their lives cut short. Leaving that mass cemetery, we sang Beyado Afkid Ruchi. We sang it like a lullaby, rocking these babies in our arms and reminding them that God holds them close and they should not be afraid. That day, we held those souls as close as we could. And tonight, we pray with the most fervent of prayers that they still feel at peace, never alone, safely in God's care. I light this first candle in memory of Anna Glimberg, age 3.
Beyado Afkid Ruchi Ve'tishon ve'ahira Ve'im Ruchi Adonai li velo hira, Tehim ruhi geviati. Adonai li velo hira, my soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Safely in your hand.
Chaim Potok wrote the foreword to the book, I Never Saw Another Butterfly, Children's Drawings and Poems from the Terezin Concentration Camp, 1942 to 1944. And he includes the following passage in his foreword. The ghetto, starved, sick, redolent of dread, throbbed with culture, lectures, concerts, theater. Theresienstadt was saturated with Jewish scholars, doctors, engineers, singers, diplomats, actors, composers, artists. It was a hothouse of European intellectuals, and there were 60,000 books in its library. Culture was a collective means of resisting the deceptions practiced by the Nazis, as well as a weapon against despair, a way of warding off the fearful pink slip, the deportation order to the darkness in the East. You and your family are to report at time and date, at place, to go on labor assignment to the East. And the children, did they know that death lay waiting for them too? It's probably that many of them did in the way that children get to know things, by tunneling beneath adult deceits and repressions and coming upon truths they sense with animal keenness, truths that fuel their darkest terrors. Peter Fischel, age 15, wrote the following. We got used to standing in line at 7 o'clock in the morning, at 12 noon, and again at 7 o'clock in the evening. We stood in a long queue with a plate in our hand into which they ladled a little warmed up water with a salty or coffee flavor. We got used to sleeping without a bed. We got used to undeserved slaps and blows and executions. We got accustomed to seeing people die in their own excrement, to seeing piled up coffins full of corpses, to seeing the sick amid dirt and filth, and to seeing the helpless doctors. Peter Fischel died in Auschwitz in 1944. We light the second candle in memory of Peter Fischel.
On a sunny evening, on a purple sun-shot evening, under wide flowering chestnut trees, upon the threshold full of dust, yesterday, today, the days are all like these. Trees flower forth in beauty, lovely too, their very wood all gnarled and old, that I am half afraid to peer into their crowns of green and gold. The sun has made a veil of gold, so lovely that my body aches. Above the heavens shriek with blue, convinced I've smiled by some mistake. The world's abloom and seems to smile. I want to fly, but where? How high? If in barbed wire things can bloom, why couldn't I? I will not die. Written by the children in barracks L318 and L417, ages 10 to 16 years. I light this third candle in memory of the children in barracks L318 and L417.
The last, the very last, so richly, brightly, dazzlingly yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears would sing against a white stone. Such a yellow is carried lightly way up high. If it went away, I'm sure because it wished to kiss the world goodbye. For 7 weeks I've lived in here, penned up inside this ghetto, but I have found what I love here. The dandelions called to me and the white chestnut branches in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live in here, in the ghetto. Pavel Friedman, June 1942. We light this fourth candle in memory of Pavel Friedman.
The beautiful poetry of Hannah Senesh, the Israeli poet who wrote these beautiful words. "O Lord my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the water, the crash of the heavens, and the prayer of man." Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol ve'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam, hachol ve'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam. O Lord, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of man, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of heaven, the prayer of man.
My First Kaddish by Alexander Kimmel, his stories first recorded by the Anti-Defamation League. On March 19th, 1942, I was sent by the Judenrat to build underground storage facilities. Our group was led to a bleak, desolate place outside the city where a tall German with a red square face told us that if we worked hard, we would get extra food rations. After a long day of digging, breaking up large boulders and carting away the dirt in wheelbarrows, I went home with a coupon for an extra half-pound of bread, and with some pride, I gave it to my father. But I was disappointed when he said, "I've arranged a new job for you. You'll be a carpenter for the German army." I was upset. I didn't know carpentry, and I didn't want to lose any extra bread rations. Anxious and worried, I left for my job the next morning. It was still dark outside. Light shone through the small windows. The ramshackle streets were covered with a blanket of white snow, and the ghetto seemed quiet and peaceful. I was assigned to help a German soldier named Hans. He turned out to be a friendly fellow who laughed heartedly at my clumsy handling of the saw. To make a straight cut, you have to pull the saw gently. Don't use force, he admonished. I was so absorbed in my work, I took no note of the sporadic shooting that erupted at midday. At lunchtime, I was at the roadside with Willie, the other Jewish carpenter. A passing Ukrainian peasant warned, "They're killing the Jews in town. Why aren't you boys hiding?" "Killing Jews, you say?" "Look there," he said. "See for yourself." When I followed the old peasant's pointing finger, I saw about 500 yards away heavy German trucks bringing groups of people who were then forced to walk uphill. The shooting persisted, but I could not believe that the killings were taking place. I didn't know what to do, but before I could decide, Willie ran off, running in the direction of the railroad station. And after a moment's hesitation, I bolted after him. We found shelter in a storage room, but the shootings grew louder and louder, and I leaned against Willie and felt his heart racing. Finally, at 5 o'clock, the shooting stopped. We crawled out of our hideout and we walked back to the ghetto. On the way home, I saw a horse-drawn wagon heaped with stained clothing. The driver walked alongside, whip in hand, and behind were 5 Jews. I heard someone call out, "Al, come help us. We're taking the bodies for burial." It was our neighbor, Yankel. For burial? It still made no sense. Nobody buries stained clothing. As I looked more closely, my heart skipped a beat. The wagon didn't haul blood-stained clothing. These were dead bodies. I wanted to run home to see what happened to my family, but how could I refuse? I joined the other Jews behind the wagon. Overloaded with the corpses, the buggy swayed and the horses slowed. "Let's push," yelled the driver. Grabbing the wooden railing, I saw to my horror the face of a classmate. Oh my God, it's Arnold Dick. I felt a tremor passing through my body. Arnold Rake, or Arnold Dick as we used to call him, was a plump, good-natured boy. We shared the same bench at school and he loved candy, and his wrestling of crushed wrappers used to drive me crazy. Only yesterday I kidded with him, and now he lay dead, his head piercing through the wagon's side spindles. When we arrived at our destination, a hideous scene unfolded. In a tremendous pit, bodies floated in a sea of blood. The Germans were gone, but the pit was guarded by the Ukrainian militia. They told us to dump the bodies into the pit and to collect those of the victims who had been shot trying to escape. After we finished our ghastly task, Moses the shoemaker called out, "Jews, let us say Kaddish." We lined up at the edge of the pit and began to recite the age-old prayer, Yitgadal v'Yikadash Shemei Rabbah. We light this next candle in honor of Alex's friend, in honor of Arnold. We commit this to memory.
For young boys like Alex, we mourn with him, searching to God for the answers. From where will my help come?
Shila malot, esayna eleharim, mehaim yavo Ezri mehim Hashem, ose shamayim v'aretz, al yiten lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha, hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Hashem shomrecha, Hashem tzivcha, al yad yeminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, ve'yareach balayla. Hashem yishmorcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Hashem yishmor tzitcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam, me'ata
How many tears lie in the letters, and how much crying. We mourn the loss of life, what was and what could be.
Häufen Prippecheck brennt auf Feiere, und nicht du bist heiß, und der Rebellendt kleiner Kinder nach dem alle weiß, und der Rebellendt kleiner Kinder nach dem alle weiß. Zetsche Kinderlach, gedensche Teiere, was ihr lernt da, sog nach amol und Tage nach amol, kommet's alle vor, sog nach amol und Tage nach amol, kommet's alle vor.
From the mouths of children. Only later did I find out that my mother had gone out from the ghetto, sold a diamond and a pearl ring to get me an orange. That was the last birthday gift from my parents, Gerda Weissman Klein. I was very lucky. Now and then I would bring a slice of bread and I would bring a carrot or a potato or an egg. And these were very, very great achievements. My mother made me promise that I wouldn't do it anymore, but I disobeyed. Charlene Schiff. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. Anne Frank. Cantor Feldman and I will light this last candle in just a moment for all of the stories that would have been. For all those that perished in the Shoah, it's this light that will continue to rage within our very beings, reminding us to never forget to fight hatred in this world, to never forget what could have been, to never forget the history of our people, and to never forget the stories we must vow to tell. We light this candle asking all of you both to take on one piece of learning to show the Nazis they did not win. And we ask you to choose just one story, one name, and light a candle this week, holding that person's memory upon your lips, holding that person's name upon your heart. Let's light the candle together. We ask everyone to now please rise to pay tribute to the memories of the 6 million Jews that perished in the Shoah, as Cantor Feldman leads us in the memorial prayer, the El Malei Rachamim.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein B'Hamromim, Ametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanefei HaShechina, B'Mahalot Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezor Arakia, Mazhirim, Et Nishemot Kol Acheinu B'nei Yisrael, Anashim, Nashim, V'taf, Shenitbechu, V'shenechneku, V'shegisrefu, ושנהרגו לגנאי די מנוחתם הנבל הרחמים הסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם הנוח אדוני אדוני הוא נחלתם וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם ונאמר Amen.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the souls of our brethren who perished in the Shoah, men, women, and children of the house of Israel who were slaughtered, suffocated, and burned to ashes. May their memory endure and inspire deeds of charity and goodness in our lives. May their souls thus be bound up in the bond of life. May they rest in peace. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen. I'll ask everyone to remain standing as we recite the words of the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra kerute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mebarach le'alam olamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brihu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. I'm going to ask everyone to remain standing for a few moments longer. Cantor Feldman.
We now have a really wonderful opportunity to light a candle virtually, to share the memory of one person, that we can do that and inscribe their memory onto a virtual wall. So I'm going to share my screen and invite you to also go to this link, illuminatethepast.org, whereas both Rabbis Wolpe and Guzik shared, it's not just about the collective suffering and collective pain. It's about taking one person, keeping that one person in your heart to be able to keep that person's memory alive. I now will light a memorial candle for Yitzhak Kirstein. Born in 1847 in Poland, Yitzhak died in the Holocaust at the age of 94. He has now been inscribed into the wall of memory. We invite you to do the same. We end our memorial tonight with the singing of Hatikva. We invite you to please join.
Kol od balev penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfa הופיע עוד נאבדה תקוותנו התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים.
Am Yisrael Chai, may the memories of the victims of the Shoah forever be a blessing, each and every one of our days. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We are honored that you joined us virtually and that you've dedicated tonight to the memory of those who no longer have a voice to share their story. Let our voices share theirs. Thank you everyone. Good night.